So I had an amazing conversation with an amazing podcast host. Excuse me, an amazing show host. He doesn't like the term podcast, but he asked a good question. He said, "What is the reason that I would create a show away from the TBD network? Like, how's it going to be different?" But first, you are listening to the TBD Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Eddie. I want to welcome you to the show. It's another great Thursday, or whenever you're listening to this show. I know a lot of people, one of the consistencies that I try to express to other show makers or podcast hosts is that you want to kind of develop consistency because I don't necessarily with this on-demand society and the way that things kind of are, it might not be entirely necessary, but I think that people get used to seeing something new from you at this time, at this day, or their drive into work or their drive to drop the kids to dance or whatever. They might have a moment to listen, and when they know that this is the day that they get to listen to you, you become kind of a habit. It's almost like a gig player playing the same gig on the same day of the same month every single time. You know when they're going to show up, so you kind of build a little bit of a following. Again, I don't know necessarily. Maybe that's the inner musician in me that I want to try to bring that to this, even though I personally have never gigged. The closest I've ever gotten was to be in a garage band that didn't go anywhere. So, but again, welcome to the show. This is the TBD Network, and I'm your host, Eddie. I hope you enjoy the rest of this. It's just kind of an update and a little bit of a footnote for the last episode. Thanks. Want to say thank you, first off, from the last show. It's done pretty well since I reignited this show and reignited the passion for this show. And that a lot of that comes from almost directly like 2 to 3 people. I could probably say 3 people. So special thank you to those people. One of them is a single mom that constantly busts her ass every single day, raising her kids and her grandbaby. And she is constantly, she goes to the gym like twice a day some days. She's a full-time student, works 3 jobs, like and she tells me that she tries to listen and support what I do, and I with the amount of time that she has to listen, and she uses that time to listen to my goofy ass talk, just want to say thank you. The other one is the Jimmy James A to Z show, Jimmy James Show A to Z, excuse me. He I think he's probably single-handedly ignited the fire in me for doing this again. He's been, even though we both struggle to get like interaction on our social media profiles and stuff, he is constantly reaching out to me, tagging me in things, telling me about this, telling me about that. And we check out each other's shows and give feedback. And man, I've been doing this for about 4 years. 4 years. And I finally got somebody talking about the shows that I put out and telling me, just giving me like feedback. Like I've gotten compliments on a few shows, which I appreciate, but it took a while for me to get some kind of growth. And if you go back to the beginning of this show, when I started, it was kind of just whatever I could think of and how I could put it together. And as things got a little bit slow, or as I wanted to try to refine what I was talking about and how I was going about it, I had people tell me, well, maybe your show's too long, because my run time was about an hour. And I try to keep my shows, I was trying to keep my shows at about an hour, unless I had a guest. And then at that point, it was just, it was complete free form. Um, in fact, there was a few times where I split the show because I had almost 4 hours of recording and I split it into two separate episodes. But those are still 2 hour episodes, right? And I think it was my little brother I was talking to. He's always kind of supported me. He was sending me like $5 a month via the Anchor app. He subscribed to the show. It was actually, I didn't even realize he had done it, and I thought it was so cool when I realized that I was getting money. And then I was like, "Oh, dude, it's my little bro. That's so badass!" And I was so excited. And then I wanted to change it because I didn't like the fact that the money was going directly to Anchor at the time, and then they got bought out by Spotify. And that's one of the reasons that I'm actually kind of shifting gears and trying to create something that's a little more independent of Spotify and independent of uh, the stuff that, granted, Spotify is becoming a monster in the podcast realm, but I just don't want to be beholden to their interests, their critiques, their I'm a bit of a free speech person. They've done pretty decent, I think, trying to protect free speech. At least if you're a multi-billion-dollar podcast host like Joe Rogan, anyway, they seem to help him out. So I don't agree with how they pay musicians, even though I do listen to their service. But for me, that means to support the musician more, right? Like buy their vinyls, go to their websites, buy their vinyls, buy their merch, buy the stuff directly from them that you have to make up for because you're not buying their CD, right? To me, I feel like, per album you buy, one shirt or whatever, and that kind of compensates as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I mean, you're spending buying a couple shirts, t-shirts at like, $50 a pop for a t-shirt, and you listen to you play the shit out of that one album that they're already getting money on. I feel like there's some kind of compensation, that trade-off that kind of comes from both sides of that avenue. If I'm completely screwing that up and you feel like you're getting screwed by Spotify, I apologize, but feel free to leave a note. I will read it, and I will retract my statements. But I feel personally that I support artists as much as I can, and maybe that's the way I justify you having a Spotify subscription and listening to music. And but back to what I was talking about with the show, it's important to, uh, when I started the show, I had a couple people, my little brother, he told me that the main reason that, or one of the reasons he thinks that I'm not getting a lot of traction is the shows might be too long. And he was saying, so I went back and I kind of looked at the analytics, and I did a couple shorter shows, and the shorter shows did do a little bit better. And I actually went and told them that, I'll make the adjustment. He was the guy that was supporting me at the time, so I'll make the adjustment. And then I talked to one of my sponsors, and he kind of said the same thing. So I was like, well, I was a little bummed, because I was like, well, I kind of like the hour format, but that is a good point. How many people have an hour to listen to a podcast? And there are a lot of people that don't, they just don't, they don't, I don't know what it is. Like what, I think people just prefer music. I was one of those people, so I don't blame you in any way, shape, or form. I didn't really get into podcasts. I started truck driving. When I started truck driving, that's when I felt that I needed something more than music. I needed maybe deep conversation. I needed somebody that could relate to a little bit. And for me, that was kind of this self-proclaimed, what ended up kind of being my own journal of sorts through the last 4 or 5 years of my life. I legit don't think I would change it. I took a good year off. I shortened the podcast. I did look up an article, a couple articles while I was talking to Jimmy earlier, and there's a couple studies that talk about the length of a show. So the average person watches about 30 to 45 minutes or listens to a podcast for about 30 to 45 minutes. So if your podcast is longer than that, they're probably breaking it up. If it's interesting enough, they'll probably stick around. If it's not, they're probably going to ditch it. And I know that I've done that before, where if there's a person that has a show, if I'm going through their show and they're trying to introduce me to their show, and I'll look up and I'll try to find a 30-minute episode. Because if I go into this show and I got to listen to 2 hours and 45 minutes of it is like crosstalk between two different people, and there's no real back and forth, or no real, like, if there's just chaos, I'm not going to finish that show and I won't subscribe. But I unless and I'm pretty bad about this, but if they don't ask for feedback, I usually don't give it to them. I'll listen to it the one time because I said I would. If they don't ask how they liked it, I usually don't say anything. If I think it's a little chaotic. If I really do like it, I'll usually sub, and then at that point, I try to do what I can to promote the show. Oh, the last person. There's one more person that I wanted to just give a shout out to and thanks to, and that's my mom. My mom, I'm almost positive my mom is one of my number one fans. So I gotta give her a shout out for that, because I'm not sure who the other people are. I'd like to see, like, that would be cool if you are listening, because there's a very strong possibility if you're listening and you are on Spotify and you click on your Spotify Wrapped, it'll go through and it'll tell you your music you listen to and your podcasts. If I am your number one podcast, if you are my number one listener on your podcast, and you send me that via our Facebook page or Instagram, and I swear when I get merch, I will send it to you. It'll either be a hoodie, a hat, or a sticker. Whatever, whatever you want. In fact, maybe all three of those. If I am one of your top on your top podcast list, I will send you that package: a hoodie, a hat, and a sticker. Just out of appreciation, because that is pretty epic. Like, I was so ecstatic when I saw that. I was like, I am number one on like three different people's podcast lists. That is absolutely astounding to me. And I would love to just thank you, like, just thank you from the bottom of my heart. I thought that was really, really cool. And so outside of thanking my mom, um, Jimmy asked the question. He said that, the new show that I've got going on, which right now I'm heavily leaning on the name Touching the Third Mask, an idea like touching the third rail, kind of like a play on words. Touching the third rail is, the equivalent of death, right? Like, you never touch the third rail. Is riding the trains. That was the Energized line. You never want to electrocute yourself, is basically what they're saying. And that is kind of the idea about this, the third mask. It's a Japanese parable. You probably heard me talk about it before, but it basically says that we have three faces. The first face is your public face. The second face is your private and semi-private face. It's the one that you deal with, like friends, close friends, family. And then your third face is the only face that you know about. It's the only thing, like the deepest parts of you, that I believe is probably more id than anything. I think super ego probably is maybe somewhere in between there. But I do believe that if you have an acknowledgement of that monster within you, an acknowledgement of that thing that's inside of you, the 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 cesspool of human emotions that writhes inside of you, the anger, all that kind of stuff. I do believe that you pull that mask off in some awkward circumstances discussing certain positions, and I think that that might be make for a good show. And one of the reasons that I'm pulling that into a whole new show instead of keeping it here is that, number one, it is going to be a new show, and I don't even know for sure if I'm going to have it. It'll be on Spotify, but I don't know if I'm going to use this distribution service to take care of that. It's something that I'm still kind of playing with a little bit. I want to building a host website, so I'm building quite a bit. I'm taking this to the next level. I'm shifting gears. I want to create a business, and I want to create a product that is worthy of said business. So that is one of the reasons, to anybody that's interested, and Jimmy, because he was asking that question, and I don't think I got a chance to explain it. But the biggest point of it is that I want to create a product that is away from the chaos of the TBD network. And don't get me wrong, the TBD network will still be here because I've got too many shows that I'm too much interested in that I'm still kind of honing in. I've got too much interest in, and I'm still honing in. If you go back to the earlier shows, I did a lot of politics. I'm into a lot of politics. I am a libertarian, if which basically means if you're too far to the left, I'm right, and if you're too far to the right, I'm left. Um, you could call it a centrist in a way, but I really don't think I'm, especially in this current political dynamic. There's no center of this. I'm definitely anti-establishment, so it makes it a little bit tricky to try to side with any particular side. That being said, I like a nuanced approach in politics, and I don't think a lot of people are really interested in a nuanced approach, but I am. And if you are interested in something like that, please keep an ear to the ground with the TBD network, because I plan on pushing forward on a show that kind of envelops that ideology a little bit more and just kind of covers things that we should pay attention to that maybe we don't pay a lot of attention to. So that's one of the things that I personally want to discuss. Also, I had a lot of fun with that Music Plus Talk episode, which was a Spotify exclusive that basically has music and a little bit of me talking in between the tracks. If you didn't listen to that and you have Spotify, and I'm pretty sure you can listen to it for free if you just want to listen to the episode, but it was a conscious music episode. And shout out to all my wonderful friends that I sent them a message and just kind of asked them, what's a good conscious music that they listen to. And they responded with that playlist. Pretty much, like, that whole playlist is pretty much everything that they sent. And yeah, that was a fun episode. I kind of want to do more of that. And me and my wife have discussed doing a relationship podcast. I'm gonna probably do one more of that, but I am gonna kick it off here at the TBD network, at the TBD podcast network. I'm gonna kick off every show on here. It'll be refined here, and then it'll be launched into that uh, stratosphere of my new product, right? Like it's you'll get a glimpse of it on this channel at any given time. But I would like to I like the flow of this show. Like, I like the ability to be able to swap it up and switch it. But I also found that a lot of people tend to gravitate towards the philosophical side of things. A lot of people don't like politics, like, they don't want to hear about this or that, and they want to just focus on, so many of us, and this is the biggest thing with most of the politics in the world right now, is that we're so busy trying to make ends meet that nobody knows really what's going on. I don't blame them. I do fault them to a degree, because I think it's important, because if you don't know that they're the cause of why things are so difficult in life, and you just kind of keep going with what everybody's doing. It does you got to kind of at some point put your foot down and show them that we are the people, right? Like, I think that's kind of the biggest fundamental portion that I think a majority of Americans have forgotten, that the people are the government. We put those people there for a reason, but right now we're so caught up in conservative and liberal that we don't even realize that they're all kind of doing the same thing to a degree. Like, obviously there are some pretty substantial differences, but to, what is it, vote blue no matter who and vote red instead of dead or something. I don't know what it was. I can't remember what the little stupid thing was, but it's ridiculous. Like, that weird party affiliation. It's always been bad, but now it's just ridiculous, especially because you can tell that they're all kind of garbage right now, and they're just making all of our lives extremely difficult. One of the footnotes that I wanted to cover on that last episode was that I wasn't apologizing when I apologized. I wasn't apologizing for the rant, even though I just understand that some people can get kind of emotional, especially if you're kind of empathetic to certain things. If you hear me talking about that in the way that I was talking about it, I think a lot of people can get emotionally worked up, and that's the stuff that gets a little bit scary to some people. And I don't want to. One of the biggest focuses I have is through a Stoic philosophy of not allowing your emotions to control your thoughts or control your ways of thinking. Like, you can control the way you think and the way you feel about something, and that's what I want to focus on. But other than that, again, thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting this show. The big things coming, man. Big things coming. I think 2024 is going to be pretty exciting. If I can, I'll rephrase that. When I get everything together, 2024 will be super exciting. And yeah, definitely. Keep an eye out. Follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, messing around with TikTok just a little bit, not a whole lot. And just wanted to, again, thank you for listening. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for embracing the madness in my mind, the patience in my mind. And I hope that I can bring you comfort when you need it. And I hope that you understand how much comfort you give me when your energy comes this way. Like there's so many people in my life that probably don't listen to this podcast that don't realize like how much they mean to me. Like they don't realize that how precious the time they give me is to me. So just want to put that out there. A little bit of attitude of gratitude. Hope you have a great weekend. Hope you have a great week. Hope you have a great life. And if you do not, stop, take some time to think, meditate a little bit. Go back to some of the other shows in this series, in this podcast. Maybe like something can help you. Life isn't always easy. But one of the things that one of the mantras I think I've always kind of kept is, life isn't always easy, but nobody ever promised me that life would be easy. So if you had somebody promise you that, you probably should have kicked them right there, right between the legs. You just called it a day. But at any rate, I love you. Love you all. Thanks for listening. Take care and have a good one.